Tasha's hand froze on the basement light switch. The groan she'd heard from downstairs wasn't her imagination. Something, or someone, was down there, and every instinct told her to run back up those stairs and pretend she'd heard nothing. But Tasha had never been good at walking away from people in pain. What she found in that dark basement would change her life forever. A man, locked in a metal cage like an animal, his expensive suit torn and soaked with blood. His face was barely recognizable under the bruises, but Tasha knew exactly who he was. Everyone in the city knew that face. Jin Woo, the Korean Mafia boss. The most dangerous man in the criminal underworld. And he was begging her to save him. Would she save this dangerous Mafia boss? Let's find out in the story. Before we continue, please subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're watching from. Don't forget to like the video and leave a comment. Thank you. The basement door creaked open, and Tasha's hand trembled on the light switch. Her manager had sent her down here 20 minutes before closing to grab extra wine bottles for tomorrow's reservations, but something felt wrong. The air was thick, metallic. Then she heard it, a low groan that made her blood run cold. She should have turned around. Should have run back upstairs and pretended she heard nothing. But Tasha had never been good at ignoring people in pain. It was the same instinct that made her slip extra food to the homeless man outside the restaurant, the same bleeding heart that kept her in a relationship that was slowly killing her spirit. Her footsteps echoed on the concrete as she moved deeper into the basement, past the wine racks and storage shelves. The groaning grew louder, mixed with the sound of chains rattling. Her phone's flashlight cut through the darkness, and that's when she saw him. A man, locked in a metal cage that looked like it belonged in some sadistic nightmare. His expensive suit was torn and blood-stained, his face a canvas of purple bruises and split skin. But even through the damage, she could see he was young, maybe early 30s, with sharp features and dark hair matted with dried blood. Their eyes met, and Tasha gasped. "Help me." His voice was rough, barely above a whisper, but the desperation in it struck something deep in her chest. Then his expression changed, twisting into rage. "Get me out of here. Now." Tasha stumbled backward, her heart hammering. She knew that face. Everyone in the city knew that face, even if they'd only seen it in whispered conversations and news reports that never quite said his name directly. Jin Woo. The Jin Woo. Korean Mafia. Underground gambling. Protection rackets. The kind of man you cross the street to avoid. I said, "Get me out." He slammed his hands against the cage bars, making her jump. I can't." Tasha's words tumbled over each other. What was he doing here? In the basement of Giovanni's, the upscale Italian restaurant where she'd worked for 3 years? Her mind raced. Her boss, Robert. The private parties in the back room. The men in expensive suits who never looked at the servers. Oh God, please. Jin Woo's voice cracked, and the rage drained from his face, replaced by something raw and human. Please. They're going to kill me. My own men, they locked me here. The restaurant owner, he's working with them. They're coming back tonight to finish this. Tasha's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text from her boyfriend, Michael. Where are you? You better not be talking to other men. She ignored it, her attention fixed on the man in the cage. Why should I help you? The question came out steadier than she felt. You're a criminal. Yes. He didn't deny it. But I've never killed anyone who didn't deserve it. And right now, I'm the one who's going to die unless you open this cage. She should call the police. That's what any sane person would do. But the police in the city? Half of them were probably on someone's payroll. And if Jin Woo was telling the truth about Robert, about the restaurant being involved, then she'd walked into something way bigger than she could handle. Her phone buzzed again. Michael, answer me. Something inside Tasha snapped. She was so tired of being scared. Scared of Michael's temper. Scared of losing her job. Scared of the mounting credit card debt that kept her awake at night. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the way Jin Woo looked at her, not like she was invisible, the way most people looked at servers, but like she was his only hope. "Where's the key?" she heard herself ask. Jin Woo's eyes widened. "There's a toolbox. Behind those shelves. Bolt cutters." Tasha's hands shook as she found the red toolbox, exactly where he said. The bolt cutters were heavy, awkward in her grip. She approached the cage, and Jin Woo backed up as far as the small space allowed, giving her room to work on the padlock. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. "Tasha." The metal groaned as she positioned the cutters. "And I'm probably going to regret this." "Probably," he agreed. A ghost of a smile crossed his battered face. "But you're doing it anyway." The lock snapped. The sound echoed through the basement like a gunshot, and Tasha's heart nearly stopped. Jin Woo pushed the cage door open and stumbled out, clutching his ribs. Up close, she could see the full extent of his injuries, the deep cuts, the swelling, the way he favored his left side. "Can you walk?" she asked. "I'll crawl if I have to." He grabbed her shoulder for support, and she felt the weight of him, solid and real. "Your car. Where is it?" "Out back. Employee parking." Her mind was already racing ahead. If Robert was involved, if anyone saw them leaving together, she was dead. They were both dead. "Then we need to move. Now." Jin Woo straightened, wincing with every breath, but there was steel in his voice that hadn't been there moments before. Tasha led him through the maze of storage shelves, her ears straining for any sound from upstairs. The kitchen would be closing down now. Christopher and Amanda wiping down stations, counting tips, laughing about something stupid a customer said. Her normal life, happening just above their heads while she committed what had to be a felony. "Wait." She grabbed Jin Woo's arm as they reached the stairs. "The security cameras." He glanced up at the blinking red light in the corner. "Already thought of that. Robert's men disabled them 2 days ago. That's how they got me down here without anyone noticing." His jaw clenched. "I trusted the wrong people." They climbed the stairs slowly, Jin Woo gripping the railing with white knuckles. When they reached the back door, Tasha peered through the small window. The parking lot was empty except for her beat-up Honda Civic, sitting under the broken streetlight like it always did. "Stay here," she whispered. "Let me check." "No." His hand caught her wrist, surprisingly gentle despite the urgency. "We go together. If there's trouble, you run. Understand? You run, and you forget you ever saw me." Tasha met his eyes. They were dark, intense, with flecks of gold that caught the dim light. There was something in them that made her chest tight, not fear, but something else. Something she had no business feeling for a man she'd met 10 minutes ago in a cage. "I'm not leaving you," she said. "Stupid," he muttered, but she saw the corner of his mouth twitch. "Brave, but stupid." They burst through the door together, Tasha's keys already in her hand. The night air hit her face, cold and sharp. 20 feet to the car. 15. 10. She fumbled with the unlock button, and the Civic's lights flashed. "Get in the back," she told Jin Woo. "Lie down. If anyone sees you." "I know." He folded himself into the back seat with a grunt of pain. "Go. Don't speed. Don't do anything to draw attention." Jin Woo flashed back to what her grandmother used to remind him. She would say, "Jin Woo, I give you a month to look for a girl to marry, so we can scale up this company. But while looking for a girl, at least find one that is loyal and not after his money like others, not even a billionaire heiress." Instead of looking for that now, he is having something else. He prayed he would survive this. Tasha slid into the driver's seat, her hands shaking so badly she could barely get the key in the ignition. The engine coughed to life, and she pulled out of the parking lot, forcing herself to drive normally even though every instinct screamed at her to floor it. In the rearview mirror, she saw Jin Woo's face, pale and drawn in the passing streetlights. Blood had soaked through his shirt, spreading across his ribs like a dark flower. "You need a hospital," she said.
No hospitals.
They'll be watching. He coughed, and the sound was wet, painful. Just get us somewhere safe. Anywhere they won't think to look. Tasha's apartment was 15 minutes away, in a part of town where landlords didn't ask questions and neighbors minded their business. She'd never been more grateful for the anonymity of poverty than she was right now.
Her phone rang.
Michael. She rejected the call. It rang again immediately. Boyfriend. Jin Woo's voice was weaker now. Something like that. Tasha took a left turn, then a right, making sure no one was following. The streets were mostly empty, just a few late-night stragglers and delivery drivers. He sounds controlling. You don't know anything about it, she snapped, then felt guilty. This man was bleeding in her back seat, and she was taking her frustration out on him. I know enough. Jin Woo shifted, groaning. I've seen 1,000 men like him. They don't change, Tasha. They only get worse. She wanted to argue, to defend Michael, but the words died in her throat. Because Jin Woo was right. Michael had been sweet once, back when they first started dating 2 years ago. But somewhere along the way, the sweetness had curdled into something ugly. The texts checking on her. The accusations. The way he made her feel small, stupid, worthless. We're here, she said, pulling into the crumbling parking structure of her building. Getting Jin Woo upstairs was a nightmare. He could barely stand, and Tasha wasn't strong enough to carry him. They made it 3 steps before he collapsed against the wall, breathing hard. Leave me, he gasped. I'm too heavy. Shut up. Tasha wedged herself under his arm, taking as much of his weight as she could. We didn't come this far for you to die in a stairwell. Move. Step by agonizing step, they climbed. First floor. Second floor. Tasha's apartment was on the 3rd, and by the time they reached her door, she was sweating and Jin Woo was barely conscious. She unlocked it with shaking hands and half dragged him inside, kicking the door shut behind them. Her apartment was small, just a studio with a kitchenette and a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. The furniture was secondhand. The walls were yellowing, and there was a permanent stain on the ceiling from the leak upstairs. But it was hers, paid for with her own money, and right now it was the safest place she could think of. She lowered Jin Woo onto her bed, the only bed, and he collapsed against the pillows with a groan that sounded like relief and pain mixed together. First aid kit, she muttered, digging through the cabinet under the sink. I know I have one somewhere. Tasha. His voice stopped her. When she turned, he was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. Why are you doing this? It was a good question. The smart answer would be fear. Fear of what would happen if she left him there. But that wasn't it, not really. She'd seen something in his eyes down in that basement. The same thing she saw in the mirror every morning. Desperation. The knowledge that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you most. I don't know, she admitted. Maybe I'm tired of being the person who walks away. She found the kit, along with a bottle of vodka she'd bought months ago and never opened. When she returned to the bed, Jin Woo had managed to sit up and was trying to remove his ruined shirt with clumsy fingers. Let me. Tasha set down her supplies and helped him peel the fabric away. His torso was a roadmap of violence, bruises blooming purple and black, cuts that would definitely need stitches, and what looked like boot prints across his ribs. Let me. Tasha set down her supplies and helped him peel the fabric away. The shirt came off in pieces, stuck to his skin with dried blood, and when his torso was finally bare, Tasha's breath caught in her throat. She'd expected the injuries, the bruises blooming purple and black across his ribs, the cuts that would definitely need stitches, the boot prints stamped across his abdomen like brutal signatures. What she hadn't expected was everything else. Jin Woo's body was sculpted like something out of a magazine, all lean muscle and sharp lines despite the damage. But it was the tattoo that made her forget how to breathe. A dragon, intricate and beautiful, coiled from his right shoulder down across his chest, its tail disappearing beneath his ribs. The detail was extraordinary, every scale rendered in black and gray ink, the dragon's eyes seeming to stare right through her. The beast's mouth was open in a silent roar, flames curling around Jin Woo's collarbone. Tasha stared. She couldn't help it. The tattoo should have been intimidating, a clear mark of the dangerous world he came from, but instead it was hypnotic. Her eyes traced the dragon's spine, following each curve and shadow. The way it moved with his breathing made it seem alive, and she found herself wondering what it would feel like to touch it, to trace those lines with her fingers. See something you like? Jin Woo's voice snapped her back to reality, and Tasha's eyes flew to his face. He was watching her with an expression that was part amusement, part pain, and something else that made heat rush to her cheeks. His mouth curved into a slight smirk despite the split in his lip. "I know, I wasn't," she fumbled with the vodka bottle, refusing to meet his eyes. "I was just looking at the injuries. Medical assessment. That's all." Medical assessment. He repeated the words slowly, like he was tasting them. "Is that what they're calling it now?" "Shut up." Tasha unscrewed the vodka cap with more force than necessary. "This is going to hurt." "Everything hurts already. What's a little more?" But when she poured the alcohol over the deepest cut along his ribs, Jin Woo hissed through his teeth, his hand shooting out to grip her wrist. His fingers were cold, strong, and the contact sent electricity up her arm. They froze like that, her wrist in his hand, his face inches from hers, both of them breathing hard for different reasons. "Sorry," he said quietly, releasing her. "Reflex. It's okay." Tasha's voice came out shakier than she intended. She grabbed a clean cloth and began wiping away the blood, trying to focus on the task and not on the warmth of his skin under her fingers, not on the way his muscles tensed when she touched him, not on that damn dragon that seemed to be mocking her with its beautiful, terrible eyes. "The tattoo," Jin Woo said after a moment of silence. "It represents my family. The dragon. In Korea, it's a symbol of power, wisdom. My grandmother had it designed when I took over the business." His voice was matter-of-fact, but there was something underneath it. Pride, maybe. Or burden. "It's beautiful," Tasha admitted, then immediately regretted it. "I mean, the artistry is impressive. From a purely objective standpoint." His laugh was quiet, painful, objective. "Right." She worked in silence after that, cleaning wounds and applying butterfly bandages where she could. Some of the cuts were too deep, really needed proper medical attention, but Jin Woo had been clear about no hospitals. She did the best she could with what she had. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Michael again. Then again. And again. Each buzz felt like a tiny electric shock. "You should answer him," Jin Woo said. He was watching her face, reading her tension. "Before he gets suspicious." "He's always suspicious." But Tasha picked up the phone. 7 missed calls. 12 texts. Her stomach knotted as she read them. "Where the hell are you?" "Don't ignore me, Tasha. I swear to God, if you're with another man, you're going to regret this. Answer your phone right now." The messages got progressively angrier, more threatening. Tasha felt the familiar anxiety creeping up her spine, the same feeling she got every time she disappointed him, which was always, "He talks to you like that often?" Jin Woo's voice was quiet, but there was an edge to it she hadn't heard before. "It's complicated."
No.
"It's simple. He's a bastard and you deserve better." Tasha looked up sharply. "You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life or what I deserve. I know you risked everything to save a stranger. I know you're gentle when you're scared and brave when you should run. I know you haven't looked at your phone with anything but dread since we got in the car." Jin Woo reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched her chin, tilting her face so she had to meet his eyes. "That's enough to know you deserve better than someone who makes you afraid." Tasha's throat tightened. No one had said anything like that to her in so long. Michael certainly never did. He told her she was lucky to have him, that no one else would put up with her, that she was too loud, too opinionated, too much and not enough all at once. "I should finish bandaging you," she whispered, but she didn't pull away from his touch. Tasha. The way he said her name was different from how anyone else said it. Like it mattered. Like she mattered. "Thank you for saving my life. You might want to hold off on the thanks until we see if you survive the night." She tried to make it light, but her voice cracked. Jin Woo's thumb brushed across her cheek, and she realized with horror that there were tears there. When had she started crying? "Hey." His voice was so gentle it broke something inside her. "You're okay. We're okay. I don't even know you." The words tumbled out. "You're a criminal. You've probably done terrible things. And I just threw away my job, my safety, everything for someone I don't know." Tasha's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Her heart was pounding so hard, she thought it might break through her ribs. 2 years. She'd given Michael 2 years of her life, and what did she have to show for it? Anxiety, self-doubt, a constant feeling of walking on eggshells. She started typing, deleted it, started again. "What do I say?" she asked. "The truth. Short and simple. Don't give him room to argue or manipulate you back in." Tasha took a deep breath and typed, "You're right. We're done. Don't contact me again." Her finger hovered over the send button for what felt like an eternity. Jin Woo said nothing, just watched her with those intense dark eyes, letting her make her own choice. She hit send. The message showed as delivered, then read. 3 disappeared immediately as Michael started typing. Tasha's stomach churned. "Turn off the phone," Jin Woo said. "What?" "Turn it off. Don't give him the satisfaction of a response. You said what you needed to say. Anything else is just him trying to pull you back in. Turn it off." Before she could think too hard about it, Tasha powered down the phone. The screen went black, and suddenly the apartment felt very quiet. Very small. Very intimate, with a half-naked man in her bed and the weight of what she'd just done settling on her shoulders. "I just ended my relationship," she said, the reality hitting her. Oh God, what did I do?" "You freed yourself." Jin Woo caught her hand as she started to pace.
Hey, look at me.
"You did the right thing. You don't understand. He's going to be furious. He's going to," she stopped, her eyes widening. "He's going to fire me. Tomorrow. The second I walk in, I'm done. So don't walk in. I need that job. I have rent, credit cards, bills. I can't just." "How much do you owe?" Jin Woo asked suddenly. "What?" "Your debts." "How much?" Tasha blinked at him. "I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me." She did the math in her head. "About 8,000. Credit cards, medical bills from when I didn't have insurance." "Why?" "Because I'm going to help you." He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world. "You saved my life tonight. That's worth more than $8,000. I don't want your money." The words came out sharper than she intended. "I'm not some charity case." "It's not charity. It's payment. For services rendered." His mouth quirked. "Extremely valuable services. Life-saving services. I didn't do it for money." "I know. That's why I want to give it to you." Jin Woo shifted, grimacing. "Look, tomorrow, well, today now, I need to make some calls. Get my situation sorted. Once I know I'm not going to get killed the moment I step outside, I have resources. Connections. There's a company, very prestigious, always hiring good people. I can make sure your resume gets to the top of the pile." "A company." Tasha crossed her arms. "What kind of company?" "Corporate. Legitimate. Nothing illegal, I promise." He raised his uninjured hand in a scout's honor gesture. "They need people in various departments. With your experience in hospitality, customer service, you'd be perfect for their client relations division. The pay is significantly better than restaurant work." It sounded too good to be true, which meant it probably was. But Tasha was exhausted, emotionally drained, and there was a bleeding crime boss in her bed telling her he wanted to help her. Logic had left the building hours ago. "Why would you do this for me?" she asked quietly. "Because you did something for me when you had no reason to. Because I've spent my whole life in a world where everyone has an angle, everyone wants something, and you're the first person in years who just saw someone in pain and decided to help. No calculations, no schemes." His expression softened. "That's rare, Tasha. That's precious. And I don't forget debts." Her phone was still off, silent and dark on the nightstand. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe without wondering if Michael would call, if he'd be angry, if she'd done something wrong. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Tell me about this company." Jin Woo smiled, and despite the split lip and bruises, it transformed his face. "Smart choice. But first I need to finish healing, and you need to sleep. We both need to sleep." Tasha glanced at her bed, where Jin Woo was currently occupying the only sleeping space in her tiny studio. "I'll take the couch." "Absolutely not. You take the bed." He tried to stand and immediately collapsed back with a sharp intake of breath, clutching his ribs. "You'll stay exactly where you are," Tasha said firmly. "You can barely move. I'm not letting you sleep on a couch that's more springs than cushion. I'm not kicking you out of your own bed. Then we share it." The words were out before she could think about them. Heat flooded her face. "I mean, it's big enough. Barely. And we're adults. We can share a bed without." She gestured vaguely. Jin Woo's eyes glinted with amusement despite his obvious pain. "Without what?" "You know what. Don't make this weird." "You're the one making it weird by explaining it." But he shifted over carefully, making room on the other side of the bed. "Come on. I promise to keep my hands to myself. Not that I could do much damage right now anyway." Tasha hesitated, then kicked off her shoes and climbed in, staying as close to the edge as possible. The bed was a full size, which meant there was maybe 6 inches between them. She could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell that mixture of cologne and blood and something uniquely him. "Thank you," Jin Woo said into the darkness. "For everything." "Stop thanking me. It's weird." He laughed softly, then groaned. "Don't make me laugh. Ribs." They lay in silence for a while. Tasha stared at the ceiling, hyper-aware of every breath, every tiny movement. She should be terrified. There was a dangerous criminal in her bed. She'd just lost her job, or would, first thing in the morning. She'd ended her relationship. Her entire life had imploded in the span of 3 hours. But she didn't feel scared. She felt awake.
Alive.
Like she'd been sleepwalking for 2 years, and suddenly someone had shaken her conscious. "Tasha." Jin Woo's voice was drowsy now, pain and exhaustion catching up with him. "Yeah. You're going to be okay. Better than okay. I promise." She turned her head to look at him. His eyes were closed, his face relaxed for the first time since she'd found him. In sleep, he looked younger, less dangerous. Almost peaceful. "How can you promise that?" she whispered. "Because I keep my promises. Always." His hand found hers in the darkness, squeezed gently. "Sleep now." And somehow, impossibly, she did. Tasha woke to sunlight streaming through her thin curtains and the sound of someone moving in her kitchen. For a disoriented moment, she thought Michael had let himself in again, and panic seized her chest. Then she remembered. Everything. She sat up too quickly, and her head spun. Jin Woo was at her tiny stove, moving slowly and carefully, making something that smelled like eggs and coffee. He'd found a clean t-shirt from somewhere, one of her oversized sleep shirts that was almost comically tight on him, and his hair was damp, like he'd showered. "You should be resting," she said. He turned, and she saw he looked better. Still bruised, still moving gingerly, but there was color in his face and clarity in his eyes.
I heal fast.
"And you had nothing to eat in your fridge except eggs and some very questionable cheese, so I made do." You cooked. In my kitchen. I cook in lots of kitchens. I'm full of surprises. He plated the eggs and brought them to her tiny table.
Eat.
Then we talk business. The eggs were perfect, fluffy, seasoned just right. Tasha tried not to think about how domestic this was, how normal it felt to have breakfast with this man who 12 hours ago had been locked in a cage. I made some calls while you were sleeping, Jin Woo said, sipping his coffee. My men found the traitors. They've been dealt with. I can move freely now without worrying about an ambush.
Dealt with.
Tasha wasn't sure she wanted to know what that meant. They're no longer a problem. That's all you need to know. He set down his cup. But I need to stay out of sight for a few more days. Just until things settle. Which brings me to a proposition. I don't like the sound of that. Let me stay here.
Just for a week.
Maybe less. I'll pay you, obviously. Enough to cover your rent for 6 months. Tasha nearly choked on her eggs. 6 months. You're taking a risk harboring me. It's fair compensation. He leaned back, studying her. Plus, I can help you with that job application I mentioned. The company is called Summit Solutions. Very prestigious. Very selective. They handle corporate consulting, client relations, event management. Starting salary is about $70,000 a year. $70,000. Tasha made $28,000 at Giovanni's, and that was before Michael started cutting her hours to punish her for imagined infractions. That's way out of my league, she said.
No.
It's not. You just think it is because you've been told you're not good enough for so long you started believing it. Jin Woo pulled out his phone, a new one, she noticed. I'm sending you the job posting now. Apply today. I'll make sure the right people see your application. Her phone, she turned it back on while he was in the shower, buzzed. The job posting appeared. She scrolled through it, her heart sinking. They want a bachelor's degree. I only have my associates. They want experience more than degrees. You have 3 years of high-end customer service, problem solving, working under pressure. That's what they actually care about. He stood, moving to the window to peer through the blinds. Trust me on this. Why are you really doing this? Tasha asked. And don't say it's because I saved you. People don't just hand out $70,000 jobs to strangers. Jin was quiet for a long moment. When he turned back to her, his expression was serious. Because when I was in that cage, I made myself a promise. If I got out alive, I was going to be different, better. My whole life, I've taken from people, used them, manipulated them. It's how I survived, how I built my empire. But you, he shook his head. You showed me kindness when you had every reason not to. You saw me at my lowest, and you didn't turn away. That's worth more than money. That's worth changing for. Tasha's throat tightened. You don't have to change for me. Maybe not. But I want to. He crossed back to the table, his eyes intense. So let me help you. Let me stay here where it's safe, and let me use my connections to give you the life you deserve. It's not charity, Tasha. It's gratitude. Before she could answer, her phone rang. Not Michael. Robert, her manager from Giovanni's. Her stomach dropped. It's my boss. Answer it, Jin Woo said. Let's see how this plays out. Tasha answered with shaking hands. Hello. Tasha. Robert's voice was cold, clipped. You didn't show up for your shift this morning. I'm not feeling well. Save it. Michael told me everything. About how you've been sneaking around, disrespecting him, causing problems. You're fired. Don't bother coming in for your final check. We'll mail it. The line went dead before she could respond. Tasha stared at the phone, numbness spreading through her chest. She'd expected it, but hearing it made it real.
Done.
Jin Woo asked.
Done.
She set the phone down carefully, like it might explode.
Just like that.
3 years gone. Good. Now you're free to move forward. He tapped his phone screen. Apply for the Summit Solutions position.
Right now.
I'll walk you through it. For the next hour, Jin Woo coached her through the application, helping her highlight her skills, reframe her experience. When she hit submit, he made a quick call in Korean, his voice authoritative and sharp. He hung up and smiled.
Done.
You'll hear back within 48 hours. Guaranteed. Just like that. Just like that. They settled into an unexpected rhythm over the next 2 days. Jin Woo's injuries healed remarkably fast, though he still moved carefully, still winced when he breathed too deeply. Tasha went about her normal routine, grocery shopping, cleaning, trying not to think about the fact that a crime boss was living on her couch, watching Korean dramas on her laptop. It was weird. It was comfortable. It was dangerous in ways that had nothing to do with his reputation. She caught herself watching him sometimes. The way he folded his clothes precisely, military crisp. The way he always washed his dishes immediately after using them. The way he smiled at her over morning coffee, genuine and warm, so different from the cold rage she'd first seen in that cage. You're staring again, he said one morning, not looking up from his phone. I'm not staring. I'm observing. Observing what? How normal you are. For a criminal mastermind. He laughed, then grabbed his ribs. Stop making me laugh. And I'm not that normal. I just have good manners. My grandmother would kill me if I was a slob in someone else's home. On the third morning, his phone rang while he was making breakfast. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted, something between resignation and anxiety. It's my manager, David, he said, then put it on speaker as he flipped an egg. David. What's the situation? Boss. David's voice crackled through the speaker, tense and urgent. Tasha could hear background noise, traffic, maybe, or a busy street. Your grandmother called. 3 times. She's done waiting. Jin Woo's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice steady. Waiting for what? The contract. The Lee Corporation deal. They're ready to sign, but David paused, and Tasha could hear the reluctance in his voice. But Mr. Lee is traditional. Very traditional. He won't finalize anything unless you're settled. And your grandmother agrees with him. Settled. Jin Woo repeated the word flatly. Married, boss. Or, at least engaged. Mr. Lee wants to see stability, family values. He thinks a married man is more trustworthy, more committed. David's voice dropped. Your grandmother gave me a message to pass along. She said if you don't bring a fiancé to the family dinner this Saturday, she's giving the contract to your brother. She said, and I quote, if Jin Woo can't even find a wife, how can he lead this family into legitimacy? The eggs sizzled in the pan, forgotten. Jin Woo's knuckles were white around the spatula. Tasha's stomach dropped, a cold weight settling in her chest. A fiancé. He had someone. Of course he did. A man like him, powerful, handsome, wealthy. Of course there was a woman somewhere. Probably elegant, sophisticated, from his world. Someone who understood the life he led. Why did that hurt? Why did the thought of him with someone else make her chest feel tight? This Saturday? Jin Woo said quietly. That's 4 days away. Yes, boss. I'm sorry. I know it's sudden, but your grandmother is firm. She's already told your brother to prepare. If you don't show up with someone, I understand. Jin Woo cut him off, his voice strained. I'll handle it. Do you need me to make any arrangements? Contact anyone?
No.
I'll figure it out. Thank you, David. Jin Woo ended the call and stood there, staring at the ruined egg in the pan. The silence stretched between them, heavy and awkward. Tasha forced brightness into her voice, even as something cracked inside her.
Well.
Congratulations, I guess. That's exciting. Getting married soon. Jin Woo's head snapped up, his eyes wide.
What?
Your fiancé. The woman you're bringing to dinner. She grabbed her coffee cup, needing something to do with her hands, needing to look anywhere but at his face. You didn't mention you were seeing someone. But I mean, why would you? It's not my business. Tasha. I should probably start looking for my own place anyway. You're healed up now, mostly, and you said yourself it's safe for you to move around. I'm sure you want to get back to your life. Your real life. She was talking too fast, words tumbling over each other. And your fiancé probably wouldn't appreciate you staying with another woman, right? Even if nothing happened. Not that anything would happen. Obviously. Tasha, stop. Jin Woo turned off the stove and moved toward her. I don't have a fiancé. She blinked at him, but David said, My grandmother wants me to bring a fiancé. I don't have one. He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she'd learned meant he was frustrated or stressed. That's the problem.
Oh.
The relief that flooded through her was inappropriate, ridiculous.
Oh.
I thought. You thought I was engaged and just didn't tell you? Something flickered in his eyes. Was that hurt? You really think I'd do that? Stay here, spend these days with you if I was committed to someone else. I don't know. I don't know anything about your life, Jin Woo. For all I know, you have 3 girlfriends and a wife somewhere. But her voice had lost its edge, and she felt foolish now, exposed. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his dark eyes. I don't have anyone. Haven't for a long time. My life doesn't really allow for relationships. People either want me for my money and power, or they're terrified of what I do. His voice softened. Until you. You didn't want anything from me. You just saw someone who needed help. Tasha's heart was pounding. Jin Woo. I need your help again. The words came out rushed, desperate. I know I have no right to ask. You've already done so much. But Tasha, please. I'm begging you. Begging me to what? To be my fiancé. Just for one night. One dinner with my family. He grabbed her hands, his grip almost painful in its intensity. I know how it sounds. I know it's insane. But I don't have anyone else I can ask. Anyone else I'd want to ask. Tasha pulled her hands away, stepping back. You want me to pretend to be engaged to you? Yes. In front of your entire family? Yes. Jin Woo, that's no. No, I can't do that. I'll pay you. The words came out desperate.
$52. Cash.
I'll transfer half right now, the rest after the dinner.
$52.
The number made her dizzy. That was more than she made in 2 years at Giovanni's. That was every debt paid, every worry erased, a cushion she'd never dreamed of having. You can't just throw money at this, she said, but her voice wavered. Why not? You need it. I need you. It's a fair exchange. Jin Woo pulled out his phone, fingers flying over the screen. This contract is worth millions to my family. It's my chance to go legitimate, to build something clean. But more than that, my brother wants this contract. He wants to prove to my grandmother that he should be leading the family instead of me. If I show up without a fiancé, if I can't even manage this one simple thing she's asking for, she'll see me as unreliable. Weak.
No.
Tasha shook her head firmly. Absolutely not. This is insane, Jin Woo. You're asking me to lie to your entire family, to pretend to be someone I'm not, to walk into a world I don't belong in. Tasha, please.
No.
Her voice rose, sharp and final. I saved your life because it was the right thing to do. But this is too much. You need to leave. You're healed enough now. You can go back to your world, and I can figure out mine. She turned toward the door, needing space, needing air, needing to get away from those eyes that made her want to say yes to things she knew she shouldn't. Jin Woo moved fast for someone who'd been half dead 3 days ago. His hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm, stopping her in her tracks. The touch sent electricity shooting up her arm.
Wait.
Just wait. Please. Tasha froze. She should pull away, should tell him to let go. But she didn't. Instead, she turned slowly, and suddenly there was no space between them. Maybe 6 inches, maybe less. Close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Close enough to see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Close enough to hear his breathing, slightly ragged, matching the frantic rhythm of her own. Tasha. Her name was barely a whisper. She couldn't look away from his eyes. They were black, intense, the kind of eyes that had probably witnessed terrible things. Cold eyes that had stared down enemies without flinching. But right now, looking at her, they weren't cold at all. They were burning. And God help her, they were beautiful. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was wrong.
He was a stranger, really.
A criminal. Someone she'd known for 3 days. Someone who'd brought violence and chaos into her quiet, struggling life. She should be running, not standing here letting herself drown in eyes that promised things she had no business wanting.
No.
She didn't have feelings for him. She couldn't. This was just, it was gratitude. Adrenaline. The aftermath of saving someone's life. That's all it was. You're scared, Jin Woo said softly. His thumb brushed against her wrist, finding her racing pulse. Not of me. Of this. There is no this. But her voice shook, betraying her. Liar. The word was gentle, almost affectionate. I see the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. I see how your breath catches when I get too close. I feel it too, Tasha. This thing between us that doesn't make sense but won't go away. Stop. She tried to pull back, but his other hand came up, not grabbing, just hovering near her face, giving her the choice. She could step away. She should step away. She didn't move. I'm not asking you to feel anything for me, Jin Woo said, his voice rough. I'm just asking for one night, one dinner. Help me, and then I'll disappear from your life. You'll never have to see me again. You take the money, build your new life, and forget I ever existed. The thought of forgetting him made her chest ache in a way that terrified her. I don't belong in your world, she whispered. My world is ugly, violent, full of people who smile while planning to stab you in the back. His eyes held hers, unwavering. You're the only real thing I've encountered in years. Don't you see? That's exactly why I need you there. The gap between them felt charged, electric. She could feel his breath on her face, could see the pulse jumping in his throat. One of them just had to move an inch, maybe less, and…
No.
Tasha jerked backward, breaking the spell. Her wrists slipped from his grip, and suddenly she could breathe again. Think again. I need you to leave, she said, her voice steadier now even though her hands were shaking. Before I come back.
Pack your things and go.
This, whatever this is, it ends now. Tasha. I mean it, Jin Woo. She grabbed her keys from the counter, needing to get out before she changed her mind. Before she did something stupid like close that gap and find out what his lips tasted like. Be gone when I get back. Find someone else to be your fake fiancé. Find someone who fits your world. She headed for the door, not looking back because if she looked back she'd see those eyes and she'd crumble. What if I don't want someone who fits my world? His voice stopped her at the threshold. What if I want someone who makes me want to be better than what my world made me? Tasha's hand tightened on the doorknob. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Goodbye, Jin Woo. She walked out, closing the door firmly behind her. Only when she was in the stairwell did she let herself sag against the wall, her legs shaking, her heart racing like she'd just run a marathon. What was she doing?
$52.
A chance to start over. All she had to do was pretend for one night, one dinner.
It was simple.
Transactional. Business. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Not when he looked at her like that. Not when being near him made her feel things she hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. Tasha pulled out her phone and stared at her bank balance. $25,000.
Real.
Already there. He'd given it to her even before she agreed. Even knowing she might walk away. Her finger hovered over Michael's blocked number. She could unblock him, go crawling back, beg for her job. return to the safe, miserable life she knew. Or she could walk back up those stairs and say yes to something terrifying and unknown. The afternoon air was cold as Tasha walked aimlessly through her neighborhood. She bought coffee she didn't drink, sat in a park watching strangers live their normal lives, checked her phone obsessively, though she didn't know what she was waiting for. 3 hours later, when she finally climbed the stairs back to her apartment, her hands were steady. Her mind was made up. She opened the door. The apartment was empty. Jin Woo's few belongings were gone. The couch where he'd slept was neatly made, the blanket folded with military precision. On her kitchen table sat a single note next to a business card. The note read, "Thank you for everything. The money is yours regardless. If you change your mind, call the number on the card. If not, I hope you build the beautiful life you deserve. JW." Tasha picked up the business card. Expensive, heavy stock. Just a phone number, no name. She should throw it away. Should take the $25,000 and run. Should forget Jin Woo existed and move on with her life. Instead, she tucked the card into her wallet. Just in case. Tasha stood in her empty apartment, staring at the space where Jin Woo had been. The silence felt heavier than it should. She should be relieved. She'd made the right choice, the smart choice. Send him away before things got more complicated than they already were. So, why did her chest feel hollow? She moved through her evening routine mechanically, shower, pajamas, checking her bank account 3 times to make sure the $25,000 was real.
It was.
All of it sitting there, more money than she'd ever had at once. Proof that the last 3 days had actually happened, that she hadn't imagined the whole insane situation. She was heating up leftover Chinese food when she noticed it. Her wrist felt wrong.
Light.
Empty. Her watch. Tasha's grandmother's watch, the only thing she had left of her. The silver one with the delicate band that didn't keep time quite right, but she wore every single day anyway. It had been on her wrist this morning, she was sure of it. She always put it on after her shower. She searched the bathroom counter, the bedroom, the kitchen. Nothing. Her stomach dropped. The last time she'd seen it, she'd taken it off when she was washing dishes this morning. Set it on the counter next to the sink, right where Jin Woo had been standing when he made breakfast.
No, no, no.
Tasha grabbed her phone and pulled out the business card, dialing before she could overthink it. He answered on the second ring. Tasha. The sound of his voice sent an unwelcome shiver down her spine. My watch. Did you take it?
A pause.
The silver one? With the inscription on the back.
Yes.
That's my grandmother's. It's the only thing I have from her. Jin Woo, if you took it as some kind of... I didn't take it. It's in my hand right now, actually. I was cleaning the counter and found it. I was going to have it sent back to you. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by suspicion. Then why didn't you just leave it when you packed up? Honestly, I forgot I was holding it. I was distracted.
His voice softened.
Thinking about whether you'd actually call. Tasha ignored the warmth that spread through her chest. Where are you? I'll come get it. Another pause, longer this time. Are you sure? We agreed. It's my grandmother's watch, Jin Woo. Just tell me where you are. He gave her an address in the wealthy part of town, the kind of neighborhood where Tasha had only driven through, never stopped. Text me when you're close. I'll meet you outside.
Fine.
I'll be there in 20 minutes. She threw on jeans and a simple black sweater, nothing fancy, just clothes to run an errand and get back home. This wasn't a social visit. She was getting her watch and leaving. That was it. The neighborhood was exactly as intimidating as she'd imagined. Massive houses set back from tree-lined streets, security gates, luxury cars in every driveway. Tasha's Honda felt embarrassingly out of place as she pulled up to the address Jin Woo had given. It wasn't a house. It was a mansion. Her phone buzzed. Jin Woo, I see you. Come to the front door. Tasha's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Something felt off. Why would he ask her to come to the door instead of meeting her outside like he'd said? She should leave. Drive away right now. But that watch was the only piece of her grandmother's she had left. She got out of the car. The front door opened before she reached it, and Jin Woo stood there in a tailored black suit that probably cost more than her car. He looked different, polished, powerful, every inch the man who ran a criminal empire. Nothing like the injured, vulnerable person who'd slept on her couch. "You look beautiful," he said. Tasha glanced down at her jeans and sweater. "I look like I'm running errands." "Where's my watch?" "Inside." "Come in just for a moment."
No.
"Bring it out here." That was the deal. Jin Woo's expression shifted to something almost apologetic. "Tasha, I need you to trust me for the next 5 minutes."
Can you do that?
Every instinct screamed at her to run. "What did you do?" "Nothing bad. I promise. Just please. Come inside." Against her better judgment, Tasha stepped through the door. The foyer was massive, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers. She heard voices coming from deeper in the house. Multiple voices. Laughter. The clink of glasses. Her stomach dropped. "Jin Woo, what's going on?" "The family dinner is tonight." "What?" She spun to face him. "You said Saturday. It's only Thursday." "My grandmother moved it up. She wanted to meet you sooner." He held up his hands before she could bolt. "I know this isn't what we agreed. I know I should have told you. But Tasha, you're already here, and they're expecting." "Expecting what?" "I didn't agree to this." Her voice rose, echoing in the massive space. "I know. And if you want to leave right now, I won't stop you. I'll give you your watch and you can walk out that door and never see me again." Jin Woo stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "But I'm asking, I'm begging, please stay. Just for dinner. 2 hours. Then I'll triple the payment. 75,000 total." "You can't just, this is insane. Look at me." She gestured at her casual clothes. "I'm not dressed for a family dinner. I'm not prepared. I don't know what to say or how to act." "You look perfect. You are perfect." His hand found hers, warm and solid. "And you don't need to act like anything except yourself. That's all I need from you. Just be you." "Jin Woo." A voice called from the other room. "Is that her? Bring her in." Tasha's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. This was a disaster. A complete disaster. She should leave. Should run. Should. "Please," Jin Woo whispered. "I know I don't deserve this. But please." She looked into his eyes and saw genuine desperation there. And something else. Something that looked like hope. 2 hours, she heard herself say. "Then I'm gone, and you're giving me my watch and we're done. Forever."
Deal.
He led her down a hallway, his hand still holding hers. Tasha could hear her grandmother's voice in her head. "Baby girl, sometimes the craziest decisions lead to the best stories." She'd always thought that was terrible advice. They reached a dining room that looked like something from a magazine. A massive table set for at least 15 people. Crystal glasses, fine china, flowers that probably cost more than her rent. And people. So many people. All dressed in expensive clothes. All turning to look at her. An elderly woman at the head of a table, clearly the grandmother, stood up. She was small but commanded the room with just her presence. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, missing nothing as they swept over Tasha. Do you think Tasha would search for them and allow them to immunize her, or would she stand by her decision and leave? If you've made it this far in this incredible story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below telling us what you think will happen next. Will Tasha call Jin Woo? Will she show up to that family dinner? And what will happen when she comes face to face with Michael again, the ex-boyfriend who's actually Jin Woo's brother? The twists are just beginning, so make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss what happens next in this shocking love story. ****.